right, doing some more practice. We have a negative 3 times a negative 3y plus 1. And then we're going to subtract a 4y minus 3. And then we're going to subtract a 3y and add a 2. All right, so there's a whole lot of stuff going on. So let's look at the insides first. So is there anything I can put in together here? No, because they both don't have y's or they're both not constants. They both don't have y's or they're both not constants. So what I need to do is sit back and kind of say, all right, what are the purpose of the parentheses then? Because there's no exponents to deal with. So the purpose of the parentheses is so I can distribute my lead term. Now this one is a negative 1. Remember, I'm too lazy to write the 1. So I'm going to distribute a negative 1 once I get over here, and then I'm just going to recopy this. So looking at the first one, watch your signs. I've got a negative 3 times a negative 3y will give me a positive 9y. So this part's done. And then a negative 3 times a 1 gives me a negative 3. So this part is done. And now we're going to take this negative 1 times the inside of these parentheses. So a negative 1 times a 4y will give me a negative 4y. And a negative 1 times a negative 3 will give me a positive 3. Remember, you're multiplying, not adding. Then I'm left with a negative 3y and a positive 2. So now what do I have that I can put together? Well, for my y's, I have, you know what, let's use green. Okay, so for my y's, I've got 9y here, I've got negative 4y here, and I've got negative 3y here. So I can count my y's and put my y's together. So 9y's minus 4y's is 5y's, minus 3y's is 2y's. So I have a total of 2y's being added or subtracted together. And then negative 3 plus 3 is 0, and 0 plus 2 is 2. And that's as far as I can go. So what I've got now is a binomial. It's 2 terms, and it's a degree of 1, and that's as simplified as you can make it. All right, so now we're going to do some operations, and I'm going to have you kind of write this a different way. So actually, I'm going to write it out long ways first, and then we're going to reorganize. So I'm going to start off with a 4x squared minus a 5x, and then plus 26. And I'm going to add that to a 7x squared plus an 8x minus 60. Okay, so why do I have parentheses? Because this time there's nothing to multiply out. There's no like terms on the inside, so really I'm kind of stuck. Why are there parentheses there? The reason that there are parentheses is because it's saying I'm taking this trinomial and adding it to this trinomial. So the way I'm going to write it is I'm going to write it vertically, like what we used to do in elementary school. Instead of writing across, I'm going to combine my like terms vertically. So I'm going to write the first thing. So I've got a 4x squared minus a 5x plus 26. And to that, I'm going to add this. So I'm going to put the x squared in the x squared column. So I have 7x squareds, and then I have positive 8x's, and then I have negative 60. So when I put that together, since I'm just adding, I just do what the signs say. So how many x squareds do I have? I have 11 x squareds. Okay, I've got negative 5x's plus 8x's, or you can look at it going up this way. So 8x's minus 5x's. Either way, you're going to get a positive 3x. Remember to not change your exponents because you're just counting how many of something you've got. And then negative 60 plus 26 is going to be a negative 34. So now it's all already combined. You don't have to go searching for stuff. You've already got it organized in nice pretty little columns. And then your answer is a trinomial in degree 2. Okay, trinomial in degree 2. So let's try it again. We have 2x to the third minus 6x squared plus 3x, and I'm going to subtract 5x squared plus 2x plus 4. Okay, so again, what's the purpose of the parentheses? I've got a whole bunch of stuff going on inside of here, but no like terms. Okay, there's no exponents to do anything with, and there's nothing out front that I need to multiply through. Okay, what's the purpose of these parentheses? Well, now these ones do have a purpose, because I've got this -1 that I need to multiply through, and that's going to change all these signs. So in subtraction, in algebra, what you end up doing is changing the signs. So for subtraction algebra, I just change the signs, and then I end up doing what the signs say. So I'm going to go ahead and use the same strategy I did before. I've got a 2x to the third minus a 6x squared plus 3x, but this is now no longer a positive 5x squared, it's a negative x squared, because I changed the sign. So that's going to go negative, that's going to go negative, and that's going to go negative. Okay? So I need to put my negative 5x squared in the x squared column. So I've got a negative 5x squared. I distribute my -1, so that's a negative 2x in the x column. Distribute the negative, and that's a -4 in the constant column. So make sure you're putting them in the correct columns. I need a placeholder, so that's going to be a 0. And this is going to be a 0. So how many x cubes do I have? I have 2 x cubes. How many x squareds do I have? -6 and -5. You don't have to worry about the subtraction because you already distributed it. So just do what the signs say. So that gives me a -11x squared. 3x's minus 2x's is 1x, but I'm too lazy to write the 1. And then 0 minus 4 is -4, or just drop your -4. So what do I have? This is a polynomial. It's 4 terms. It doesn't have a special name. And my degree is 3. All right, so let's try something else. We've got a little bit more going on. So I've got 9m to the 4th. I have minus 7m squared. I have plus m. Minus. And then I've got 9m to the 3rd. I've got 3m squared. I've got plus 7m. And then I've got plus, I'm running out of room, m squared minus m. Okay, so first thing I want to look at, is there anything I can do on the inside? No. No like terms, can't do anything. No like terms, can't do anything. No like terms, can't do anything. So the next thing I want to know is, what are the purpose of the parentheses? So I've got a trinomial here, minus a trinomial here, plus a trinomial here. So really the one thing I've got to worry about is this negative distributing to only this set. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and realize, I'm going to start writing this out. So I've got a 9m to the 4th. I know just from looking ahead, I'm going to need a placeholder for my m to the 3rds. So I'm going to leave a blank right here. And I've got a minus 7m squared and a plus m. Okay, so I left a little hole there because I'm coming up to a 9m to the 3rd. So I'm going to distribute this -1. And that's going to take care of my subtraction for me. So take that and change a sign, change a sign, change a sign. So this is going to be a minus 9m to the 3rd. This is going to be a minus 3m squared and a minus 7m. This one I just have to rewrite. Do not change signs because I'm back to addition. So I've got an m squared and a minus m. And now I can combine like terms. So I've got zeros all in here for placeholders. So how many m to the 4ths do I have? I've got 9m to the 4ths. How many m to the 3rds do I have? Since I've already changed the signs, just do what the signs say down here. Don't worry about subtraction. You've already taken care of it. So I'm going to drop my -9m to the 3rd. And then how many m's do I have? Or m squared, sorry. -7 and -3 is -10. Plus 1 gives me a -9m squared. And then I've got a positive m and a negative m. So this is one of those kind of fun things about rearranging stuff. This m minus that m is no m's. So 0 minus 7m is a -7m. So you end up with a 4-term polynomial, and his degree is 4. Okay, so we're going to practice some more with some multiplication. So I have an 8x squared I have 5x to the third. I have plus 7x squared minus 8x plus 2. And there's nothing to be done on the inside. There's no exponents. There's nothing like that. The only reason that these parentheses are here are so that I can multiply that 8x squared through. So I'm going to multiply to 1, 2, 3, 4 terms. So 8x squared times 5x cubed. Do your numbers first, then count how many x's you got. 8 times 5 is 40. X to the, I've got 2 here, 3 here, so that gives me x to the 5th. Okay, so I'm done with him. Do your numbers first, then do your x's. So 8 times 7 is a positive 56. I got 2 x's here, 2 x's here. That gives me 4 x's. So x to the 4th. Okay, done with him. Watch your signs. 8x squared times negative 8x. 8 times negative 8 is a negative 64. X squared times x means I've got 3 x's being multiplied together, so that's an x to the 3rd. And then finally I've got an 8x squared times a 2 gives me a 16x squared. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got a 4-term polynomial in degree 5. All right, let's make it a little bit more exciting. We're going to use the distributive property. So we've done the distributive property before, but I've got a 3y minus 8, and I'm just going to tell you this video is going to run a little bit longer, times a negative 4y squared plus 6y plus 4. Okay, so what's the purpose of the parentheses? There's nothing to be done in this set. There's nothing to be done in this set. But I do know I've got a set of parentheses next to a set of parentheses. So there's nothing between there that tells me multiplication. So I'm going to be very, very orderly. And I'm just going to take this 3y. Since I've got 2 terms, I'm going to have to take the 3y times all 3 of those and then take the negative 8 times all 3 of those. And I'm going to organize like what I was doing before in columns. So I'm going to cover up this negative 8 for a second. So take a 3y times all 3 of those. So 3y times a negative 4y is a negative 12y cubed. 3y times 6y is 18y squared. And 3y times 4 is 12y's. So I'm done with this one. Watch your sign. I'm going to multiply through by a negative 8, so all those signs are going to change. So a negative 8 times a negative 4y squared is a 32y squared. So put that in your y squared column. So I'm done with this one. Take your negative 8 times 6y. That gives me a negative 48y in the y column. So I'm done with this one. And negative 8 times 4 gives me a negative 32. So now I've got everything in nice, neat little columns. So it gives me a negative 12y cubed. 18 and 32 gives me 50y squareds. 12 minus 48 gives me a negative 36y minus 32. So I have a 4-term polynomial, and its degree is 3. So I'm going to try another one, and this is distribution, but it's a special type of distribution. So we're going to talk about it for just a second. First of all, notice that I've got a binomial, or 2 terms, times a binomial, or 2 terms. Okay, so I'm going to show you what we're doing first. I'm going to do the exact same thing I just did up here. Nothing to be done inside, nothing to be done inside. So the whole purpose of this is to multiply. So I'm going to cover up my negative 5. I'm going to take 4v through both of those. Okay, so a 4v times a 5v is 20v squareds. And a 4v times a 7 is positive 28v's. Okay, now look at what you just did. You took the first term of the first set times the first term of the second set. So I'm going to say I did the first terms. Then I did the furthest to the left times the furthest to the right. So I did the outside terms. I did the far outside terms times each other. So I did the first of each set times the outside. And now I'm done with that 4v. So let's take this negative 5 times 5v. Well, now I'm multiplying right next to each other, so I'm multiplying the inside terms. So a negative 5 times a 5v is negative 25v's. And now I'm going to do the last terms in each set. So the last of this set times the last of this set. And we get the acronym of FOIL. So that gives me a negative 35. And so when we say to FOIL something, what we're really saying is I've got a binomial times a binomial, please distribute. You're still distributing. It's just that we're doing it a little bit, it's just a little trick. So we just say to FOIL it out. So I've got a 20v squared plus 3v's minus 35. So I've got a trinomial, and he is degree 2. All right, so let's try another one. I'm going to go a little bit faster because I'm running short on time. 5v minus 3, and then 6v plus 5. So I've got a binomial times a binomial. So I'm going to FOIL it out. So it's the same thing as distribution. So I'm going to take the 5v times both of those. So 5v times 6v is 30v squared. 5v times 5 is 25v's. And I'm done with him. Negative 3, so now I'm on the I'm on the inside part. Negative 3 times 6v is negative 18v, and negative 3 times 5 is negative 15. So I get a 30v squared plus 7v minus 15. So I get a trinomial, and it's a degree of 2. And now we want you to pay attention to something kind of nifty, okay? So we're kind of setting this up because we're wanting you to see a pattern. So I've got a 5c plus 6 times a 5c minus 6. So notice that these two sets of parentheses match. It's just that the sign in the middle is different. So we call these conjugates. Okay? These are conjugates. They match except for one's a plus and one's a minus. And I don't care who has the plus or who has the minus. So look at and see what happens. If I cover up this positive 6, so I'm foiling again. 5c times 5c is 25c squared. 5c times negative 6 is negative 30c. So I'm done with this 5c, and now I'm going to take a positive 6 through. So 6 times 5c is positive 30c, and 6 times negative 6 is negative 36. So dropping that down, I've got a 25c squared, and look what happens to your middle term. Negative 3c's plus, negative 30c's plus 30c's is no c's, which is okay. And then we've got a negative 36. So notice when I multiplied the conjugates, that middle term fell out. So I'm left with a binomial of degree 2. And that's just a little trick that I want you to notice that in a future section. We'll refer to that later. So now I've got a 5x plus a 2y, and I'm going to square it. So be very, very careful. A lot of people will want to say 5x squared plus 2y squared. First of all, you've got to distribute the 2 to everything in the parentheses. But what does this really mean? What this really means is a 5x plus 2y times itself. Okay? So this is like FOIL in disguise. So do not fall into the trap. You must FOIL this. So I'm going to do first times first. Gives me 25x squared. The outers is 5x times 2y is a 10xy. And we end up putting that in alphabetical order. Okay? We like to be organized. So I'm done with the 5x's. So 2y times 5x gives me 10xy. Order doesn't matter. So I'm going to go ahead and put it in alphabetical order. So I've got an xy column. And then 2y times 2y is a 4y squared. So I end up with 25x squared plus 20xy's plus 4y squared. Okay, so just another case just to look at. So let's try another one like that. I have 6r minus 4t squared and I'm going to square that. So again, what I'm doing in the back of my head is I'm going through, is there anything that I can do on the inside? No. What is the purpose of the parentheses? The purpose of the parentheses is I'm squaring everything in there. So I need to do 6r minus 4t squared times 6r minus 4t squared. Okay, so I'm going to FOIL it out. So 6r times 6r is 36r squared. 6r times a negative 4t squared. So remember, I'm going to put my variables in alphabetical order. So 6 times negative 4 is a negative 24r t squared. Okay, so he's done. Now take this through. So I'm going to do the I. I'm going to do the inner, and then I'm going to do the last. So negative 4t squared times positive 6r. Negative 4 times 6 is negative 24r t squared. So negative 24 RT squared. And then negative 4 times negative 4 is going to be positive 16 t squared times t squared. I'm multiplying 2 t's here and 2 t's here. So that gives me t to the 4th. So this simplifies to 36r squared minus 48RT squared plus 16 t to the 4th. So I have a polynomial, a trinomial, and it's degree 4. My largest degree is a 4. So we've got one more that we're going to do. So I've got x minus 4 times x plus 4 times x squared minus 16. So I told you this video is going to be a little bit longer. All right, all this is 3 things being multiplied together. I got this one times this one times this one. So if you go to arithmetic, it's kind of like saying, well, what is 2 times 7 times 9? Okay, so 7 times 9 is 63, times 2 is going to be 126. Okay, so I just need to multiply, choose 2 of them to multiply together, get that answer, and multiply it to what's left. So these ones look a little bit easier to deal with, so I'm going to go ahead and multiply those 2 together and then bring this one along for the ride. So this is x squared plus 4x and then minus 4x and negative 16. Okay, so when I add that together, I get x squared, 4x's minus 4x's is no x's, and then I got minus 16. So this one right here just turned into the exact same thing I had. So what I'm doing now is I'm taking this x squared minus 16 that I just found times the x squared minus 16 that was still part of the original problem. Okay, and the 2 and the 7 and the 9 have nothing to do with this problem. I'm just trying to show you something. All right, so I'm still going to FOIL. So I've got x squared times x squared gives me x to the 4th. X squared times negative 16 gives me negative 16x squared. So I'm done with him. Negative 16 times x squared gives me negative 16x squared. And negative 16 times negative 16 is positive 256. So I end up with x to the 4th minus 32x squared plus 256. So I have a trinomial in degree 4. And that is it for this section.